Is starting. So I'm going to share my screen as always. So that's my screen and that's your system. So as I said, this morning we'll be purchasing and inventory combined. So my recollection is that this went through in a slightly more mixed way. I think the scenarios you've given us are more mixed. So crumbs.
Okay. So did you have one yesterday as well? Thanks.
This is the first session on inventory and purchasing.
Okay.
So the only session we had yesterday was on sales.
No.
No, that was Monday?
No, that was
Monday.
Sorry. Come on. I told you I was in the States last week. My body clock, my calendar's all mixed up. So that's my only excuse. There's my calendar coming up. Yeah, we did sales on Monday afternoon. We did nothing yesterday, and I will bring back your system. So that's being shared. There we go. That's you. Okay. I see what's happened. Sorry. I was slightly surprised by the way my notes are looking all of a sudden. It looks like something's changed, but it's something fairly trivial. So let me just clean it up. Okay, so the first item is a stock check. So I'm assuming by a stock check that we're talking about a full-blooded stock take.
Oh, sorry. Can I interrupt? Because when you said this is purchasing and stock and inventory, because I'm not involved in stock and inventory. I'm only involved in purchasing. So is there a second part of this? This is one of two.
It's one of two. Literally, I've just taken the scenarios as you've given them to me. You've put them all into one bucket called stock and purchasing, so I've taken them in that sequence.
Okay.
I haven't reorganized them at all.
Okay.
If you want, we can start by having a look at the scenarios and prioritizing one group over the other.
No, do you know what? No, just carry on based on the list, and I'll just tune out if it's something that I don't need to know.
So I think this one will be slightly longer, the first one. I don't think there'll be an exercise for this one by the nature of it. Okay. So the issue is that Steve wants to do a stock check. Now, from that, I'm assuming it really means that Steve wants to do a full stock take rather than just checking the odd bit of stock here and there. So this is, I'm going to take this as Steve wants to do a full stock take, an annual stock take. Is that a valid assumption, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So if we start at the beginning then, the ideal process is, and you'll see why, if you give me, I suspect if I tell you this up front, your first thing is going to be say, why are you going to do that? If you give me a minute, we'll get to a point where I hope I will cover that. So the ideal process is that before you start, you want to review and close all open inventory transactions. So anything that's an inventory transaction that could be closed now should be closed. So, when I talk about inventory transactions, I'm talking about anything that will affect stock, any movement of stock, any change of status, any change of quantity. So I'm thinking of shipments, I'm thinking of goods in, I'm thinking of warehouse transfers, I'm thinking of inventory destruction, returns either from customers or to suppliers. You get the idea? Anything that's going to touch stock and change the values of stock. If there's anything that's been created as a transaction but hasn't been finalized yet, the idea is that it should be finalized. So to enable that to happen, the first step is you can go to inventory and under warehouse control, you've got past balances. And under there, you've got past balance reports. And under past balance reports, you've got pending documents up to date. So here we go. If we run this one, just run the report and display it. You can always export to Excel if you like. So up to, I'm just going to take it up to today. Let's take it up to yesterday. This is the international demo company, so it will have shed loads of stuff that's never been closed. That's just the nature of the beast. So we're not going to worry about it in here, and we're not going to perform a full stock take either. We're just going to go through the process. So here you've got a list of transactions that haven't been closed. So if I click on this, it will open it up. There it is, and it's already opened the warehouse assembly. What it hasn't done is opened it for that particular transaction, to my surprise. But okay, it's number 2 anyway. From so if I search for it, star 02, and I want the one from 2007, it hasn't got one. Oh, haha! I know why. Sorry, for some reason it's gone and opened it in our live system rather than the copy company. So if I go back to your system, which is this one, it has opened it, and you can see that there is a transaction here that is in draft status. So in theory, that should be closed at this point. And you just work your way through all the transactions. Sorry, I'm getting click happy, obviously. Hopefully I'll get through the jet lag real soon. So you just work your way through the transactions to start with. And it's not necessarily your place to close all of these, but at least to have conversations with the people who are responsible for those transactions, and make sure there are as many of them as possible are closed. Having done that, you will then want to have a look at goods in and shipments as well, to see what's not yet been billed that could be. So there are some reports that will make this easier for you. Again, we've got this on recording. I've got them in my notes, so you don't need to make a note of all of these. I'm just kind of walking through and showing you them. So under accounts payable reports and purchasing analysis, you'll find vendor analysis, and then under there you've got unbilled goods in. So again, if there's any unbilled goods in that you can run, so we'll delete that and go for today's date. If there's any unbilled goods in, and you've already got the invoice from the supplier, now's the time to raise the invoice as well, where possible. So there's your unbilled goods in. Once you've done that, then you'll be wanting to do the same thing on the shipping side. So I'm going to go this time, bizarrely, on the shipping side, it's in a completely different place. So inventory transactions, sales, unbilled shipments. There we go. And then you've got a whole stack of unbilled shipment reports. I'm just going to take the top one, but you, basically what it's doing is choosing it by different criteria, and therefore sorting the same results but in different ways. And we'll take that date as representative. Show me Eddie customer, and there you go. Those are shipments that have been made but not yet been billed. So again, in this case, because in the case of suppliers with goods in, you're waiting for them to give you an invoice first, so you can record that invoice on your system. In this case, this is stuff that you have shipped but not yet billed, so you know that you can crack on and just get finance to raise invoices for any of these, as many of these as is possible. So that's your unbilled shipments. Once you've done all of that and all of those transactions have been recorded properly, then at that point what we want to do is run a past balance. So inventory, warehouse control, past balances. And this is the point where I get to explain why we've been going through this process. Okay, so we've got past balances. Oops, don't want to be in there yet. We want to calculate balance for a date. We want this one. And I'm going to show you the help first. What this does is it calculates inventory balances in all warehouses, including the plant floor, for a specific date. Inventory levels are determined as follows. It begins with a previous past balance that's been run for each part. It then goes through every single inventory transaction that's been recorded since the last past balance and adjusts the quantities for each part, either adding or subtracting according to the transaction that's happened, whether the transaction is final or pending. Once a past balance has been, so what it's doing is a past balance basically draws a line in the sand and says this is an actual hard value of quantity in stock for this lot number, for this part, in this warehouse on this date. It's an absolute number. It's set in stone. I don't know how you want to describe that. It's a line in the sand saying, at this point we drew a line in the sand, we counted the exact numbers, and this is what we recorded. So it goes back to the last line that was drawn in the sand when it was said this is the final number, and then it all the time that you are on the system, if you go to part catalog, for example, and you search for a part with some stock in, let's hope we've got some stock for this. We do, we've got 87 units. So that 87 at the moment is built on the last past balance that was run in this company, where a line was drawn in the sand saying this is the actual number that we have on this date. And then all inventory transactions that have happened since are generating that current number there. So every time you look in the system to see how much stock you've got of any particular part, it's a calculated value. It's calculated from the last past balance that was run and all the transactions that have happened since. It's a calculated value. So it's good to have past balances. It's good to have past balances on a regular basis. And that's what we're doing here with the past balance. So if I go back to the help, I'm hoping that you're staying with me on this one. This is, I don't know how familiar a concept this is to you and whether this is a big leap mentally or not. So what we're about to do at this stage is to calculate a past balance, a new one. We're about to set a new line in the sand and basically say this is the value that we think is in the system right now as far as stock is concerned, the quantities that we've got. Once a past balance has been calculated, you cannot record or revise inventory transactions whose date precedes the past balance date. So if I record a past balance for the 11th, yesterday, I will then not be able to change any inventory transactions with the date prior to the 11th. I will need to I'll give them all dates post the 11th. Okay.
What do you mean change? Like you can't, if you have any open.
I think in practice what it means is that you can still finalize them so long as you don't you have to finalize them with a date after yesterday or whatever your past date is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So before you begin, you should first search. This is the reason why we do the first 3 steps that I've already talked about, going through the open transactions and closing as many of those as we can. Before you begin, you should search first for inventory documents that are still pending that we've taken into account during the calculations. So to do that, there's a report you can run there, which is the one that we already looked at first, and then there are some others that we looked at too. And note, when you run a past balance, it's always calculated for the end of the designated date. So if I run one for yesterday, it basically runs for midnight last night. Okay. So if I want to draw a line in the sand for the beginning of today, then what I do is I run it for midnight last night. So I run it for yesterday. So at this point we can calculate, that's what the aim is behind this calculate balance for date. So you click on it and it basically asks you what date do you want to run for, and you'll see that it's once more it's got explanatory text in here. So I would be running it for here. I don't really want to run it because we've got huge numbers of documents in there that we don't want to complicate, but you get the idea. And so that's what you would run. Once you've run a past balance, you have now hardened up the numbers of the quantities in stock for each part and its lot number and its status and its location. So once you've got a past balance run, then at that point you want to prepare for the inventory count. Inventory, warehouse transactions, warehouse control, inventory count. So we are going to use prepare the account for a past date. Okay. And we're going to specify which warehouses are to be included in the count. So prepare for an inventory count. As always, the explanatory text, and then it'll ask you which warehouse do you want to run it for. You tell it which warehouse you want to run for. Now, I'm assuming if it's a proper full stock take, then you would actually be running it for all warehouses. And all warehouses, note, will include, therefore, the engineers' vans. So think that one through carefully as to whether you're including the engineers' vans in your stock take or not. Once you tell it which warehouses you want to include, so you can include all, or you can choose a specific warehouse. So you could choose main, or alternatively, you can choose from the drop-down list. So and then you can choose your store and your sale. I don't think you have a floor, but you choose your main, your Swansea kit one, etc. You can choose however many you want and just say OK, and they will all then be listed here as well. So there's multiple ways you can do this. OK. And you give it a date that you want to prepare for as well. So again, I'll prepare for yesterday, and then you've got some questions. So if you've got, if you happen to have a location, a bin location where you have stored something in the past, but it's now you've cleared it out and there's none left there, you would have a zero balance for it in that location. Do you want to include zero balances or not? Ignore the last operation because that's to do with manufacturing, so ignore it. And that then just leaves you with selecting parts as well. So do you want to run this for everything, or do you want to run this for specific parts? If you're doing a full stock take, then again, I don't see why you'd want to do it for selected parts. So you can run the full stock take, and this is just preparing the inventory count for you. So it's prepared counts. It's prepared 5 counts starting at number 4. So if I go to the inventory count form now, so at this point we've now prepared the inventory count. So what you don't want is you do not want people performing inventory transactions within priority that's going to update stock now that you've got an actual position of what it should be. You now want to be able, you've got an inventory count created. This is telling you what parts you're expecting in what location with what quantity. You do not want people wandering around, picking things, moving them around, shipping them, receiving them in, changing quantities anywhere. You do not want it. This is, this is the classic stock take where you say, right, we begin, we shut down, we count everything, and then we open up again. So this is expecting nothing to move during the stock take. Here's your inventory count. This is for the main warehouse. If I search for today's date, sorry, yesterday's date, the date for which I prepared the count, you'll see that I prepared a count for all vans. I told it not to bother with anything that's got 0 stock, so it's prepared a count, a separate count for each warehouse. So this is the count for the main warehouse, but there is a count for each of the other warehouses, and here's one for a van that's got something on it as well. Okay, so just to go back up here we are in the main count. Okay, at this point you can print the count for the warehouse. It depends on you how you want to perform the count. Are you going to prepare the count and then print the count out, or and then do the count against the printout and then bring the printout back to the system so that you can update the system? Are you going to work with some kind of mobile device that you can carry around with you? That's up to you. If you want to print, yeah, I'm pretty sure if we're up here, yeah, you can print the count form here. And again, it's asking you questions. Do you want spaces, etc.? So choose what you want. Here's your printed count. I'm going to display it. You can print it. So there's your printed count, and it's basically, it's not telling you how many you expect to find. It's just leaving you with a sheet and saying how many. You go round, find these parts in these bin locations, and if there are lot numbers, so you'll see for lines 4 and 5 here, for example, these two lines, you'll see they're both for the same part, but they have a different lot number. So it's giving you the lot number, and therefore you need to go in and you need to be able to specify the quantity against each lot number as well. Okay. Yeah. So that's crumbs. That's what we're working against. That's our printed count. The alternative is that you can just record it straight on here if you prefer. You'll see here, this tells you what you're expecting, and this tells you, this is where you record what you actually found. Okay, and there's the units that you're measuring it in as well. You don't need to worry about the fact that sometimes you've got both factory units and buy-sell units, because I think the vast majority of the time yours are always the same. So so long as you make sure that you're counting in the right units, then you should get the right values. If you put a value in there, if you record a value, you'll see that the next column then shows a variance.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So you can see that the variance is calculated for you automatically. So if you're counting against the paper, the printout, then once you've finished your count in a particular warehouse, you bring it back here and just load the numbers in manually. The other thing that we should note is that for a part that contains serial numbers, so thinking particularly of your printers, you can record the serial numbers down here. If you've got serial numbers in the system and you know where you received them in on a goods in, and you recorded the serial numbers and you put them away, then the system knows which warehouse that serial number is in and is expecting you to record that as well. So this should be, you should be recording your serial numbers here to confirm that you've got them where you expected. Hopefully this is all clear, and I'm assuming it's ticking the right boxes and it's telling you exactly what you expected it to tell you. The other thing to note is that as well as the lot number, which you've got here, you also have a status of goods. Now, so far we've been very nice with the transactions that we've made, and we've only ever received good parts in. We've always received them in with a status of good, which means that they're ready for use, ready for sale. We've never found any bad parts in the system, so we've never changed the status of any parts. However, you may need at some stage to change the status of a part, in which case you might find any of these statuses. So you need to be careful when you are checking your inventory counts, that not only are you checking the part number, the lot number, and the location. So in this case, it's main warehouse. But you're also checking the status of it as well in case something does have an issue. And you'll see for each line it says it's got the warehouse and the bin. So as far as I know, my recollection is I think we said that basically for each of your warehouses at the moment you just have a 0 bin for each warehouse, including main, I think. So in which case you'll find all your parts under bin 0. If you ever change and start recording bin numbers, then other than 0, then you'll need to make sure that when you're checking a part, not only is it in the right warehouse, but it is in the right bin as well. Again, I think I trust that I'm stating the obvious and what you'd expect and hope to hear. So
no, that's
I
all
don't.
good,
I don't think there's any surprises in any of this.
No,
I'm just stating the blind in the obvious. Okay, just ticking all the boxes, making sure you've got every step there, and everybody else on the call understands it as well. So you now have the expected quantity, you have your actual counted quantity in there for your find a variance. So the question for you is, if you've got a variance, what do you want to do about it? So you should, once you've recorded, my suggestion is that you go through and just record everything that you've counted to start with. You can then run a report to see all the discrepancies in one place. You don't have to run a report. If you stay in here, for example, you could, let me get rid of that menu. You could come in here and then you can click on the variance column and sort it, and it will give you all the plus variances at the top and all the minus ones at the bottom. And if you click on a second time, it will give you the other way around. So you can easily find the variances within here. But if you don't like doing that, if you prefer to have a report, there is a report. So inventory, inventory count reports, inventory count reports, and there's one for count discrepancies here. So if I run that now, display, again, you can see that you can export this to spreadsheet straight away. You can show discrepancies only for approved lines. You can show discrepancies of 0 if you wish, which I mean, seems to me to defeat the point of it, but you know, if that suits you, floats your boat, then go for it. So in this case, we found a discrepancy. What's the variance? We've got a variance of 402, 100, 100, and here's the -2 that we've created already. Notice that these other ones are for different inventory counts that we didn't run. Okay, these are older ones. This is the only one that's happened for today. These were from the 19th of September. So that's why we've got more than one result. So you can easily see all your discrepancies here. You can then go round part by part, discrepancy by discrepancy, reviewing it and deciding what you want to do about it. Once you've decided what you want to do about it, whether you want to adjust the number or whether you accept the number and say that's fair, then if you want to adjust it, you adjust it. If you want to accept it, then you need to click on the approve. Okay, and you're basically aiming to get to the point where you click on approve for everything. If you approve it, what in effect you're doing is saying, I know that you think you've got 87 in the system. I'm telling you that as of today, you now have only 85. You're updating the actual stock in the system by doing this. So the suggestion is if the variation is 0 or very small, then you can approve the count on a line using the approve tick box. Again, if you run the report, you can review all of them and decide whether there's any problems that you need to address. You can go and address them, and you can get them to the stage where basically you're happy with the count for the whole warehouse. If you do that, then you can go up here, and one of the actions is approve / revoke the inventory count. And if you click on this, basically it will approve. It will go through and tick all of the lines for approve in one go. It will reverse whatever is in that tick box now. So if you had ticked one line, it will undo the tick. But if you've got none that have been ticked, you can then just approve every line in that particular account en masse by running that particular action. I don't want to do that right now, because all that would do for us right now is to say reset everything to 0, which is not what I want to achieve. So, and in the background, basically, if you're approving a variance, then it's posting something that updates the system and says, update the stock to show this value. Finally, once you've done all of this, you're in a position, you've now updated stock and told it where it is, what the current position is. If you wanted to, you can, some people do this, some people don't. If you wanted to, you could then run a balance, a past balance for the end of today. Basically say, I've adjusted all the stock. I want this now to be a hard line in the sand. This is the new value, and then that will be the starting position going forwards. If you don't do that, what it means is that your last past balance will be the one that you ran just before the stock take, and then all the values that it shows thereafter will include the changes that you made in the stock take. So it's having to include the stock take in those calculations every time it does it. That's the only impact it has. Is that okay? At that point, you've now finished your stock take. It's clean, it's closed. You can therefore open the system up for other people to be performing transactions which affect inventory again. And if you wanted to, conceivably, you could, if there were warehouses that are much more sensitive to being closed for transactions, then you could be running. You could be prioritizing those first in your list of warehouses to be processed. So, for example, you could be doing the vans first, so that the guys can start using stuff in and out of their vans again. Okay.
Yep.
Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay. I'm taking, if you've got to know that everybody else is going to agree with you. Again, I mean, it does raise a question about how you run stock takes, whether you do shut down, why you do a full stock take, where you shut down inventory transactions so you can perform a proper stock take or not. It also raises a question whether you do a full stock take, an annual stock take, or whether you do a cycle stock take. Because you can do cycle counts in Priority. It's a different process, but it's perfectly valid within Priority should you ever wish to do that. I have assumed in all of this that you are doing a standard old-fashioned traditional annual stock take rather than a cycle count. But
yeah.
Okay. And I think you'll also appreciate why I'm not asking you to run all of that as an exercise as well. I think that's one of the few things that is not particularly helpful to run as an exercise.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's the stock take. That's the slower one and messier one. The next one then is Steve needs to transfer a part from one depot to another. Okay, so in this case, most transactions affecting inventory happen under the inventory menu. They all happen really under inventory transactions, and they're kind of listed either as a sales inventory, in which case it will be a shipment and a customer return, purchasing inventory, in which case it'll be a goods in voucher or a return to the supplier, or a warehouse transaction. And there's a whole stack of them in here. As I think Steve will probably already be familiar from the workshop that we did. So we already. Oh,
sorry, Tim. I did one last week. Fine.
Okay.
Moved it from the main warehouse to an engineer's depot.
Yeah.
This morning, because I haven't done it for about a week. This morning I went to do it. It was all over the place. I couldn't remember how to do it.
That's okay. So, that's what we're doing now. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that was one of the things.
Yeah, no, we're just going to do a warehouse transfer now. That, as I said, the scenario is that you need to transfer a part from one depot to another. So that is the scenario we're going to cover. I'm just trying to give some sense of coherence to how you find different transaction types and where you find them. There is some kind of a structure to it. It's just not obvious when you start looking. There's so many menus and so many depths to them that it's easy to get lost. So the kind of transactions that you have that affect stock, generally speaking, are shipments and returns from the customer, goods in and returns to the supplier, and then a whole pack of stuff within your own warehouse, including the transfer. But there's also inventory disposal is another one. So we're looking at the warehouse transfer. So we'll open this. And in this case, yeah. So the first thing is, let's give it a date. So we're going to do it today, and it will automatically give you a document number and a status, which will be draft. And the key thing is that if you're doing a warehouse transfer, it's got to go from a warehouse. So I'm going to take it that we will move something from main, and I just heard Steve say that he'd like to move it to a van. So we'll move it to the engineer van. You will, going forwards, I'm assuming that you're going to have one van per engineer.
Yeah.
But for the moment, we've got one engineer van, so that's okay. So and he's only got one bin in his van.
Yeah.
Normally this will be done by Steve. He will just raise it, deal with it, and close it. So it'll always be assigned to him, is what I would expect. There may be occasions where an engineer needs to do this. So, for example, where you've got those specialist parts where you buy them on a discount from the supplier, you fit them, but you then have to, it's an advanced exchange scheme where you then have to return the part from the broken part from the customer, so it can go to the supplier to be refurbished and fixed. So in that case, for example, the engineer is going to be on site. He will have the part, and he, as I understand it, he will return it to Swansea. So he will be performing a warehouse transfer from his van to Swansea. So he'll be doing the reverse of this. For that reason, we have added the warehouse transfer form to the app so the engineer can use it. Okay. If you don't like the idea of the engineer doing this, then you can always send it in the post and you'll just have to fill out the warehouse transfer for him afterwards. So I'll leave that down to you as to exactly what it is, the process that you want to follow internally. It can be done by the engineer should you wish, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So we're doing it on this date, this transaction number, and it's going to be between these two warehouses. As with so many other transactions, you've also got a field to record details. So you can put a small description in here. Ship to engineer, and you could even put something like the service call number in there to explain what this is for, if you want. Yeah, really the only fields that you have to fill in are these and the where to and from warehouse. It will automatically fill that in for you. You don't have to fill this in, but if there's a reason, you know, this is basically you recording a reason for making the shipment. So it's up to you whether you want to do it. It's not mandatory. And the final thing is, what is it you want to ship? Oh, sorry, move. So I think we've got plenty of those in the main warehouse. So, and I think they're all lot 0. So it's going to go from, so if I change the view, just so you can see this more easily, that's the part number we're shipping. That's the lot number that we're shipping. Remember that. If you're shipping something that's got a lot number, remember to record the lot number being shipped. Otherwise, by default, it will be lot number 0. If it's lot number 0 and you've got no stock, then you'll be trying to ship something that you have no stock for. And it will say you haven't got any stock for this. I think we've set it up. What in effect you would then be doing is turning lot 0 for this part into having -1 in this warehouse. And I think we've set the warehouses up so they do not allow negative inventory. Okay, so if you're trying to convert it to negative inventory, I think you'll get a warning message, an error message saying I'm not going to let you do that. In which case, in all likelihood, the problem is likely to be that you've forgotten to put the lot number in. Which I think is a good reminder, actually, that you need to put the right lot number in. I would strongly argue that. The other thing that you're also doing is you're telling it what status it will, the goods are that you're moving. So most of your goods will be in a good status, and it will know for this lot number that for this lot number I have X quantity that are in good status, next that are in reject status, next that are in advance exchange status, etc. So it will allow you to choose the status of the goods that you're actually shipping as well. So you've got the goods there, and you tell it. It tells you you've got 87 in of this lot number in this location in of this status. You tell it how many you want to move. So I'm just going to move one. Okay. You will also have the, so we told it what the from status is. There is a to status, so you can use this to say, while I'm moving it, I want to change the status of the goods as well. So you can do this to change the status of goods. So you can move it from main to somewhere and change the status while you're at it. What's the other thing to note on here? I think that's basically it. So we're moving one from here. Oh, I know. Again, if you, the warehouse transfer basically is between the main warehouse and the van. And we've specified it's bin 0 to bin 0. What you can do, I think we agreed that your warehouses are all just going to be all bin 0. You can change that in the future if you ever choose. If you do choose it, then for the warehouse transfer, you can, on any individual line, you can change the bin number that a particular part is being moved from, but you cannot change the to warehouse or the from warehouse. You'll see they're grayed out. So a warehouse transfer is always between warehouses, but the individual lines can be from different bins within that warehouse. But the from and to warehouse must be consistent for the whole warehouse transfer. Okay. Once you've done that, you hit the draft button, change the status, make it final, move off the record and save it. Job done. If we now go and have a look in the part catalogue for the office chair, if we have a look at the inventory for parts, we should now see that we've got 86 in main and 1 in van. Okay, so we created the warehouse transfer and we finalized it, and it's complete. It's updated stock accordingly. Do you want to get some practice on that one now?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, I've been doing it when you are talking, so I'm just doing
okay.
everything.
We all learn in different ways.
Yeah.
I personally find if I follow along with somebody as they're doing it, I find it much harder to take in. I know I'm doing the actions, but I'm not really taking in the process that I'm doing.
Yeah, so, I mean, we are different. So.
Yeah. So I personally, when somebody's showing, I never like to follow along because I know full well I'm not taking it in. So
yeah, no, if I'm just watching, then it just goes past me. So
okay, well that's okay. Well, you learn your way.
Yeah.
Well, we're here so that you can learn.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you all want to have a quick go at creating a warehouse transfer, it won't take long. If we know that we've got plenty of stock of the office chair, so feel free to use that part again. We've got plenty of stock of the office chair in the main warehouse. So if you want to do anything, I would suggest moving it from the main warehouse to any other warehouse.
Okay.
Please don't all transfer 86, because if you do that, only one of you will be allowed to, the fastest. Okay.
Okay.
And if you can let me know when you're done, then I'll leave that up so you've got an example to follow as well.
Yes.
If you let me know when you're done, then we can move on to the next scenario once that's complete.
Well, I'm having problem with you know where you put the quantity of items, it won't let me put anything in there. I don't know why.
Okay, let me stop sharing my screen, and if you share your screen, we'll have a look and see if we can.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I don't know how to do that.
There should be an icon, a button somewhere on your team. What we're using Teams, aren't we? Yeah, on your screen that basically says share. So
yes.
you tell it basically you want to share, then it will give you a choice of the screens that you're using, and you tell it which one you want to share.
Okay, am I doing
Okay.
it?
Yep, you're doing it. Okay, so you've got the office chair. You got lot 0. You're going from main to van. Okay, can you show me on the sub level? Can you show me the operation palette tab?
Operation palette.
So you are going from goods, and you haven't told it how many you want to move yet.
Okay, so it's here. Okay, sorry, I was trying to put it up here. Okay.
No. That the one up there gives you a total of how many parts you're moving. So if you put a 1 there.
1. But it's still jumping as 0. You see, won't it?
Okay, I'm guessing that's your keyboard. If you can use, I have that when I use the number pad on my keyboard, and numlock is off. That's what happens to me.
That's done.
Yeah, it's taken it. So if you go back up to the top.
Yes.
Yeah, you're done.
Final.
And if you click somewhere else, at the moment you've changed it to final, but you haven't actually saved it. You haven't left the record, so you need to leave the record to save it. If you click down in the lower level, that should be enough.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, now it's finalized as well, saved. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody else either comfortable with what happened there or happy?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then I will return to sharing mine, if that's okay. You happy with the process there, Steve, as well? I'm asking you particularly because
You moved Steve.
This is
Yeah,
more.
no, there's a lot of background noise going on, so obviously got to mute. Unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
You're happy with it? Because I mean, you're out of everybody, you're the one that will be doing this most, and therefore I need to make sure that you particularly are happy. Great. Okay. No other reason for picking you out other than that. No hidden agenda. So we're all happy with the warehouse transfer. I mean, I think it's reasonably straightforward. You just need to say, when am I doing it? Where am I taking it from? Where am I sending it to? And then beneath that, you need to just say, these are the parts that I'm going to move. This is the lot number, the status, and the quantity. The one thing I didn't say was you can put as many lines on this as you like. So the one I'm showing, obviously, I only did 1. I kept it really simple. But if I have a look at everything, I'm hoping that we'll find something that's got a lot more in it. There you go. There's an old one as an example, but it proves the point. So, okay.
Okay.
Can't remember which was mine, and it really doesn't matter which one was mine anyway. Now, the next thing then is that the next scenario we've been given is that Steve needs to write off 50k of stock. Okay. Now, I'm going to assume for this that actually what's really required is that Steve isn't going to make a change to finance saying I've reduced the value of stock by 50k. I'm assuming that you've performed a stock check, and as a result of the stock check, you found 50k that, or you found different parts that need updating. Okay, maybe you found some parts that are bad and need writing off. That's what I've assumed. So step 1, for this purpose, I'm going to go back to the office chair because we know we've got plenty of those in stock. That makes it much easier. So the first thing to do is the only way you can, what we're going to do is we're going to get to the stage where we can use this inventory disposal form, okay, to dispose of the stock. You cannot dispose of stock unless it's in an appropriate status. So if I go to here, there's a on the inventory statuses form. These are all the different statuses you've got for inventory. Okay, so it can have any of these statuses, and you'll see that there's a series of tick boxes.
Yeah.
And there's one that says disposable.
Okay.
That's this one here.
Mm-hmm.
So if it says it's disposable, it means that if the stock is in this status, you can dispose of it. But it needs to be in this status to dispose of it. You can't just you can't pick any status and throw it away. And I think we can argue till the cows come home about why it's done this way. My guess is that they want to make absolutely sure. It's very easy to say I want to dispose of this and then suddenly realise that you've disposed of the good stock instead of the bad stock that you meant to get rid of.
Yeah.
So they're just being very careful to make you go through a process to identify specifically what it is that you want to reject, and then allow you to reject it and reduce the chances of you creating a reject accidentally. So because we need to have stock in a reject status, there are a couple of ways you can do this. As you've already used the warehouse transfer form, I'm going to use the warehouse transfer again. I'm going to assume that we've got, what was it, an office chair in Maine. I'm going to assume that we've got an office chair in Maine that we found out is in poor state. So I'm going to, I don't know if I can keep it in Maine or not. This is a question that I have. Can I transfer it from Maine to Maine? We'll see if it'll let me. And then I'm going to pick the office chair. And if I show you again in the easier to understand format. So we picked an office chair with lot 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of those. We're going to change it from status of goods, and we're going to change it to a status of reject. What we're going to do. So you can see that there. So you need to tell it the quantity that you're going to change, and you need to tell it the status that you're going to change it to. And then once you've done that, you can change the status to draft. Sorry, from draft to final, which I've done. And if we now go back to the part catalogue again for the office chair, and if I come down here now, you'll see that we've got 2 different groups in Maine. We've got 79 with the status of goods, and we've got 1 with the status of reject. So all this time when I've been saying for shipments and for goods in and for warehouse transfers, when you're moving stock around, you always need to be aware of the status of the stock. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about here. It keeps a list of the status of the stock against the lot number and against its location and the quantity. It's doing all of that for you. Okay, just so you can see what we've achieved so far. So that was the warehouse transfer. We now have something in reject status. So if I go to the inventory disposal form, I can now give it a date of today. And give a description if I want. It's going to come out of Maine. Whoops. You only got bin 0, so that's fine. You can, if you want, you can set up reasons for disposing of stock. And then having set up reasons, you can then use them in this form as well. So if you do want to go down that road and record different reasons why you're disposing of it, then you've got access to this form. You can just start creating codes and explanations in there, and then you can choose them from here. Okay. So I'm going to go and choose the office chair. It is still lot 0. Status is reject, and it's in Maine. And I'm going to reject. I'm going to dispose of 1 unit. And again, there are parts for which you will have serial numbers. So if you're disposing of something that's got a serial number, you need to record the serial number here again, okay? Because it's this serial number that's being disposed of.
Okay.
Once you've done that, as before, as with the warehouse transfer, you can record as many lines as you like down here. We're just doing the one simple one. And then once you've completed everything that you want to dispose of, come back to the top, change it to final, save. And if I go back to the part catalogue, I'm expecting now that we will no longer have a reject when I refresh. So there was a main with reject. There was a part there, but you'll see that it's now 0 quantity. So that has been processed. So it's a two-step process, if I remind you before we get to it, because you can perform this as a task as well as an exercise. Step 1, you're going into the warehouse transfer. You can transfer it from the same warehouse to itself. But then while you're in there, what you're going to do is you're going to change the status to reject. And again, we've got plenty of office chairs, so that's the obvious one to play with. Once you've changed it to reject and finalized your warehouse transfer, and at that point you can go to the inventory disposal, tell it you're going to dispose of that thing that you've now created from that warehouse, and make sure it's reject with a quantity. You tell it a quantity of 1, and it will do all of that. Okay. So over to you.
Okay, thank you.
If you wish to, you could get really adventurous, and for your warehouse transfer, when you're rejecting it, you could move it to a different warehouse first as well as part of the warehouse transfer process.
Okay.
And then you can dispose of it from the new warehouse. So I'll leave that to you, how you want to play with this, how you want to configure your exercise. It's your exercise. I've shown you the simplest option. You don't have to choose it. Again, if you get any problems, if you get stuck because it's not doing what you expected, just let me know. If you have no problems and you're finished, let me know, and then we can move on when everybody's together again.
Okay. Can't type that one quantity one again. I don't remember what I did last.
Sorry?
I can't type the quantity again on my keyboard, but I don't understand why.
That sounds more like it's a keyboard issue between your keyboard and your screen, and that's harder for me to assess, I have to say. I'm happy to stop sharing and let you share again.
Yeah,
if that helps.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to share your screen again, then we can hopefully resolve that. I don't know what it was you did last time. Maybe this time we should ask you to, as you do it, to describe. Oh, hang on, your quantity is grayed out. I can see it's grayed out there. Okay, if you look in the middle column, so to the left, next column left.
Yeah.
Look at the bottom of it, you've got quantity and factory units there. So if you put the one there.
But it's no, I'm typing 1 and it just jumps to 0. So I'm actually.
No, it's not. It's not jumping to 0. If you watch your cursor. Yeah. When you hit the 1, it jumps to the next column to your right, the tick box disposal of rework.
Yeah.
So
I typed 1.
Have you got your numlock key turned on?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I tried.
Put your numlock on. No, okay. Can you do you have a row of numbers at the top of your keyboard?
Oh, it worked now. Yeah, I tried the function.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So so what was it you did again? Just in case we have this problem on the next exercise.
I did not use the numeric one. I used the function.
Okay, great, fine.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, on this one, just to explain, throughout the system, Priority has the concept for every part. It has the concept of factory units and buy sell units. Now, most of the time you can record the quantity in either one or the other. And this form is rather unusual in that you can only record the quantity in factory units. In this case, the buy sell units is grayed out.
Okay.
So you'll see that the buy sell units gets updated when you put the value in the factory units, but the grayed out means it's read only and you can't put anything in there. So if you want to change your status to final, then Barbara, and then click in the bottom, you'll save it and it'll be fine. Great.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I will share my screen once more. This one. Yep, there we go. Everybody else okay?
Yep.
We're all happy with that. Good. There is one thing I realise I haven't yet shown you, and I don't want to make any assumptions. So rather than making assumptions, I'm going to show you something simple, just so you know. So going back to the inventory count that we did earlier, I want to show you something specific for the inventory count, but that's a general truth that's applicable through the whole system as well. So if we go to the inventory count menu here, we've got a whole stack of options that are all related to the inventory count process, one way or another. If I go to the menu itself, so you can see I'm hovering over the inventory count menu. If I do a right click on that, I get a choice of help, and then beneath that I get online help. If I click on help, it just tells me kind of a quick, simple overview of what the items in the menu can do. Yeah. If I do a click on the online help, however, it gives completely different information. It gives, first of all, at the bottom, you can see a stack of FAQs, which are all related to inventory count. So all this information is provided by Priority themselves. So over the years, they've had lots and lots of questions about stuff. So they've created lots and lots of FAQs, so you can use this. You are in an HTML screen, which means if you want to search for some, I've seen this that's pages and pages long. So if you want to find something specific, you can always use, you can always tell it you want to search and then search for a particular phrase, and it will find that word or phrase in this list and narrow it down to the things that you're interested in. So to be able to search on an HTML page, you just need to use Control F, and that brings up the search bar up in the top corner there. Okay. What I'm really here for, though, is Priority ships with a whole stack of standard operating procedures already in existence and documented. And at the top, you'll see there's an SOP here for inventory counts. So you can click on that and it gives you an SOP for inventory counts. And this is how they imagine the standard process for an inventory count to occur. So if there's something that you need to investigate that you've never dealt with for the first time, you can always navigate around on the menu, find somewhere and start using right-click online help. And it will give you this kind of information. It will give you access to SOPs and you'll be able to read through them. And they're all written in the same kind of way. They all tell you what is it I'm trying to achieve in this document? So what's the aim? Is there any background setup that needs to be done first? And then it walks you through the whole process. So before we go live, there'll be an initial inventory count just to set everything to 0. And we'll have an initial pass balance where everything is 0 before we load any inventory in. And then we'll run an inventory count and basically have an initial load of all your current stock. Once that's loaded in, we'll have a pass balance and then everything can carry on running from there. All of those kind of things are listed in here, but that's merely an example. If I go anywhere else in the system, so sales orders, I can click on there for online help and you'll get SOPs for different types of sales orders. Okay, so as I said, it's not just about the specifics for an inventory, for a stock take. This is about how the system works and the kind of help that's available to you. There is also some more help available over here on what some of us refer to as the burger menu. There's help there. There's some quick help. There's a user interface guide, which is huge. If you're the kind of person that likes using keyboard shortcuts, then there's a whole stack of them available just here. So there's no shortage of keyboard shortcuts if that's the kind of thing that floats your boat. Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
there's a huge amount of help available within the menu structure, not just within each form. So as long as you're aware of that, that's, in my view, always a good thing to be aware of. Okay, next scenario then. Steve needs to print a batch label. There's a couple of things to note on this. I'm going to make an assumption. The kind of discussions that we've had so far about printing labels for stock is that labels will generally be printed when you receive goods in. So you receive goods in and you'll, as you complete your GRV, then you'll be able to print off a batch of labels for that stock you've just received in, stick it on and then put it away. Now I think we've just approved a quote to send to you to cover the work that is needed for bartender. So I'm going to be sending that quote off to you today. So this isn't in place, it's not developed. I think the idea is that you will supply your own license for bartender. Yeah. I think the intention is that you will design the label that you want, and then you'll pass the information to us that we need, telling us which parameters you need passing to bartender to make it work. And we will do the piece within Priority. Priority does integrate with 2 different label systems. Bartender's one of them. So the gist is that on a GRV, you'll come in, you'll have the GRV. Here's one. I don't know how. Okay, it's just got 1 item. That's fine. It doesn't matter how many items it is. Once you've finished your GRV, to be able to batch print, then you can just come over and you'll see there's an action for prepare labels for received items. So you click on this, and that will go off and prepare the labels for you. And then the labels will go to a specific location. So inventory label printing, here we go. Those labels will then appear in the label work area, prep work area. So they'll appear in here. You'll see them, and you'll be able to click on the print button here. Alternatively, if you just trust the system and you don't want to look at them first, you can, on the label printing menu, you can just use the print labels option here. It will print them from there automatically. It will print yours. Okay. So there's the key thing is at the moment the labels, well, the integration with Bartender is not yet in place, so that needs to be in place. Once that's in place, then you'll be able to test this, and it's an action off here to prepare labels. Once you've prepared the labels, then you come to inventory and print them. Okay. So there's nothing much to practice there, sadly, no exercise. Next one, scenario number 5. We can go at a slightly slower pace and have more exercises today because there are fewer scenarios for this session, and we've got 2 of them as well. So if we don't finish everything this morning, then that's okay. We've got a second session booked. Scenario 5. So we have placed an order for 50 items with a supplier. So we've raised a PO for 50 items. Only 29 have arrived. If we book these in, does the PO remain open so we can book in the remaining 21? And does it allocate separate lot numbers? Is the question. So we're going to go first of all to a PO. So you want to choose a supplier, and ideally something that you would order 50 of from them to make this more realistic.
Yeah, you can do data direct. We order lots from them.
So data direct. So we're creating a PO. You need a supplier. You need a date. You need and it will give you an order number.
Yeah.
It's status of draft. You don't need to do anything else at the top level at this stage.
Okay.
It will show you the total value of the order that you're creating as you go along. What sort of a part is it that you want to create, that you want to order 50 of?
Oh.
Any idea?
Wow.
From them?
I don't know what's in there.
Tim?
Yep.
Do you want to scrap it and go to Microplex instead? That's
Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You can pick Microplex.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
we can do.
Just like, yeah, if you do
Yeah.
7651, we're always over it. I
Sorry?
got loads of them. 7651.
2651.
Yeah.
Okay. Toner. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the baby. So you can see it knows that we haven't set data direct up to supply that part, but that's only a warning message. Just okay, and it'll ignore you. So we're going to order 50 of those.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll be a bit more careful about this, so we'll give it a price. What's the price to you? Unit
94, I think. 94.
94 per cartridge. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So there you go. There's your 94. Yeah, okay, so it's saying you need a due date, so we'll say tomorrow. Anything else? I think we're good.
That's all, yeah.
That's it. Okay, so we will finalize that. We'll go straight to authorized and save it, and then we'll send it. So we've now sent that to Data Direct. So the next thing that happens is that I want to copy that. So we're now going to open a goods voucher for it. Okay. So we're on the purchase order. We can just open the goods voucher for it here. If you want to, you can go to the purchase inventory and open the goods voucher there. And what you can do is you can paste the purchase order number in there, and it behaves in the same way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the goods voucher here. It's 2 different ways of doing the same thing. So it's saying, okay, you're receiving goods in. What kind of shipping number are you getting from the supplier for this? So here's their shipping number and what day you're receiving it. So there we go. I've answered the questions. We're receiving it today. And it's created a GRV for me. So it's based on that purchase order number. And because it's based on that, we know that it's coming from that supplier. It's given it a GRV number already. We know who the supplier is. Contact. We know that it asked us what their shipment number was, and we recorded that. That's there now as well. So you've got everything you need here at top level. Down here, it's saying, so what is it you're receiving?
So let's say we're receiving only 20 of these.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point of the exercise. So in this case, we're receiving that part number because that's what we ordered on this order. And we are going to, we're not going to receive, it's assuming that they've shipped everything. So by default, it ticks this approve saying, yep, I've got everything. In this case, we're going to say, no, I didn't. I received 29. So we're going to, there's going to be 21 outstanding. If I move away from that, it takes the 29, the tick disappears from the approved box, and you'll see the factory units updates to 29 as well. The other thing is that for this part, we've already set up a lot number template. So it's automatically generated a lot number for us. Okay. If Data Direct happened to ship this part.
Sorry,
yes?
Tim.
Yep.
I need to ask you about that internal lot.
Yep.
Thing. When I create a part initially, and I go through the process of booking it in.
Yep.
I can't bumble my way through the lot number. When I book it in, and then I come back out, I manage to bumble my way where I can put a lot number in for the next one I book in. So is there any way I can do it at source? Obviously, I don't want to answer it now, but maybe at the end.
Well, we'll okay, yeah. If I finish this exercise, this specific scenario, and then we do it straight afterwards while it's relevant.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm doing it
Yes.
a backwards way, if you know what I mean. The first thing I book in won't have one, the next lot will then, which is what's happened here.
Yep. So at the moment, this part is set up to receive that lot number. So a lot number is already being created for it. If it turns out that Data Direct are also allocating lot numbers to the particular part that they're shipping, then you can record their lot number there as well. Okay. And if anything is ever shipped with an expiry date, then you can record the expiry date there as well. Just because it does keep track of expiry dates. We haven't really talked about those in the system because nobody's asked any questions about them, but I'm just saying it's available. By default, you'll see that on the goods voucher, we told it where we're receiving it to. So it will always receive it into a warehouse. So if you're not received, by default, it will receive into main. So you may want to adjust that. You can tell it that you're receiving into main, but you can override on a line level. For the goods in, you can override where you're receiving it to if you wish. So you've got the warehouse there and the bin here. So you can override that at line level. You can say the majority of this goods in is going here, but this particular line is going somewhere else. And again, you can see that you've also got the ability to record status. So for example, if you received, in this case, if they shipped 30, but when they arrived, one of the packages was had torn open and you could see that the toner cartridge inside was broken, then you could have one line here as now for this. You could then have a separate line for the same part, and you would then record a quantity of one. You could record a quantity of one and a status of reject, for example, and then you've got it in stock, so you can then perform a return to supplier as well. So you can do that. You can put all of that in one go. Okay.
Okay.
So that's something you can do. Alternatively, it's up to you whether you want to have that paperwork to trace that. At least going forward over a period of time, and that would give you the ability to assess if any suppliers are more prone to supplying goods that you have to reject because they arrive broken, for example. So recording it enables you to do that extra analysis in the future. It does add a little extra paperwork, so it's up to you whether you want to go down that road or not. Those are options that are available to you. So what we've got at the moment is we have recorded, sorry, I thought I got rid of this. Rid of that line, I don't want it. No, I just want the one good line. So there's the one good line. We've got 29 with a lot number. So here we go, we're going to receive it. I'm going to save that now, change it to final, save it. So the first question in this scenario was, does the purchase order remain open? So let's look at the purchase order. The purchase order is, I'm going to be good. So I've copied the purchase order number. I'm going to search for the purchase order number again. Here is the same purchase order. You can see its status. You can see that we've ordered 50.
Yeah.
And we have an outstanding balance of 21. Okay.
Okay.
So when your supplier part ships to you, it doing the GRV process automatically updates your purchase order for you. If I were now to receive the remaining 21 in, it would recognise that the balance on this order is now 0, and it would therefore close it. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So the scenario was we've placed an order for 50, only 29 have arrived. If we book these in, does the purchase order remain open so we can book in the remaining 21? I think the answer is clear. You've seen it does exactly what you want. That's how it behaves. The remainder of the question is, does it allocate separate lot numbers? So I think the implication behind that is when we receive the remaining 21 in, is it going to allocate a new lot number for it? So if we go to, what I want to do is go to the GRV, and I want to copy that lot number. This is going to be more interesting because I think I know the answer, but what I want to do is see what the possibilities are. So we've received the 21. We've already part shipped them to the customer. We've received the 29. We're now going to receive the remaining 21 in. So we come back up here. The remaining 21 arrive. We open a goods voucher for them again from the purchase order. And again, he's shipped it, so we need to give it another number. And we're going to receive it with today's date. Presumably the first one was sent snail mail and the second one was courier, and it's caught it up. So we've received both lots on the same day. Here we are on the goods GRV. It's created the goods in. As you can see, it's creating it for the main warehouse in Swansea again. So we'll take that. It doesn't have to be. You can change it. This is the part it's going to receive in. It knows that we've got a balance of 21. In this case, we're going to take the 21. Okay. You will see, if I go back to the previous GRV, you will see that the previous lot was 23.
Okay.
This is 24, which is what I expected it to do. What I'm hoping is that I can paste the original lot number in and it won't object. Okay, so it does object, but it says you can deal with it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to undo that, so it's back to 24. I'm going to set the quantity to 0 and move off the line and move back to it. I'm then going to change the quantity, the lot number to 23, change the quantity to 21, and again save it. And now you can put it in as being, it's the same lot number as the first batch that arrived. So by default, it will give it a new lot number, but you can override that. And it gives you, as you saw, it gives you the instructions for how to override that and to paste in the lot number that you want instead. So you do have the instructions available to you on screen to tell you what to do. Once you've done that, you can just come up to the top, change it to final, save it. And if we go back to our purchase order and refresh that now, so I'm going to copy and search on it again. Here's my, you'll see that the status is now closed. There was a quantity of 50. We now have a balance of 0. So you don't need to worry about your purchase order. It's been dealt with by dealing with your goods in properly. You've dealt with your purchase. It's dealt with your purchase order for you. Any questions?
Yeah, no, that's a perfect example. We wanted the next sequential batch number. So that's fine. Even though we can override, we would prefer it to have the 2901 batch number and then obviously the 21 like it did.
Yep. So you're actually happy with the default behavior?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
If we, just a quick question.
Yes.
If we booked the 29 in first and we gave the 23 batch number, right?
Yep.
And then we had other parts in between, say over 5 days.
Yep.
Then I'm taking it when you book the next load of 21 in, that would give it a sequential batch number after the last item we booked in.
It will be, yes.
Yeah. All right, that's fine. Yeah, just had to check it, but that's fine. Yes, great.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly what I would expect. Yes,
yeah. All right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do you want to practice that now?
Yeah.
So you get practice first in creating a purchase order.
Mm-hmm.
Create it for, I mean, if you want to, so choose your supplier, choose the part number. The beauty of this exercise is that we don't need to find something that's already got stock in because we're adding to stock. So it's easy, it's great. So you're going to create a purchase order for a supplier with a part number and a quantity. And the quantity must be more than 1.
Okay. Yes.
Because you're going to receive the quantity in 2 different goes. So you must have a minimum of 2. But beyond that, I'm not going to tell you anything. If you you should also record the price on the purchase order. Okay.
Yes.
Other than that, off you go. And then we will come back to the Steve's question about how do you associate a lot number template with a new part.
How do we associate new?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
That was the question that Steve asked partway through this my demo. So it's what I said we would come back to in a minute when we finish the exercise. So finish this exercise and then we'll come back to the next bit.
Okay, I have problem again. I created my purchase order and I changed it to authorized, but it won't let me. There isn't a drop down for sent. So do you think it's maybe because it's over a certain value?
I think. Let me check. My instinct is to say that it's not because of the value, it's because you haven't actually saved it as authorized yet.
Okay.
So you need to
say all change saved, but let me try again. Oh yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You see all the elephant traps that I've fallen into in the past. I've fallen into them. I know what they are. I know what usually the explanation is, and those are the easy ones. That's fine.
Okay, so now I'm going.
It's always nice to know that you're not the first to fall into the elephant trap.
So I booked in 7, so then I go back to my purchase order.
You can go to your purchase order to see that it's been updated and the outstanding balance has been reduced.
Well, yeah, I am back in there, but it still says sent and nothing's been changed.
Have you finalised your goods in voucher?
Yeah.
And saved it?
Let me show you. Yeah, I think so. Something obvious.
I think so.
Let me. Right. Can you see it?
I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, so it does say final.
So you've created a PO for 10, you've received 7, you've got a lot number. Can you just click in the items level for me? Okay.
Yes.
And back up to the top, so that should be final. If you can go back now to your purchase order. Okay, can you put your cursor on the order number and copy it? And then go into query mode, search.
Yeah.
And paste that in again. Enter. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just a screen refresh issue.
Okay.
That's all. Yeah.
Okay. So now I can go and do the other ones.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Hmm? Yeah.
How are we all doing?
Yeah, good.
Happy with that, Tim.
Yeah, and for yourself, Barbara?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, great. So at the beginning of that exercise, we looked at the GRV process to receive the materials in. And when we were looking at that, Steve was asking about this lot number and where does it come from and how do you set it up so that it just happens for you, okay? Particularly when he creates a new part in the system, how does he set the new part up so that it works automatically? So that's the bit that I want to come to now and cover. So for your information, Steve, I want you to basically to be using the part catalogue. If you come into the part catalogue here, you can get to the parts form using that link. Sorry, that was a bit quick. Let me go back one.
Yeah.
There's an action there to go to the parts form. I mean, there are other ways of getting to the parts form. I always find this the easiest way because you don't go there very often. Once you're in the part form, you can do one of two things. You can find the part that you're interested in, or you can come to this action, and this is the one that you're interested in. It's the assign lot template to part. Click on that, it takes you to the form. And now you can put in the part number that you're interested in, that you've just created a new part. You want to add a template to that part, so you put your part number in here. If you don't know what your part is, then you can always come in here and have a look and find it. So we've got one here that's not been set up, the Zebra 105S, okay? This one has not been set up, so what I'm going to do now is show you how to set it up. For this one part, you come along and you tell it which template you want it to use, and it's that template. As far as I know, we're only ever going to use one template, so there you go. That's the template you're going to use. And the other thing you want to do, okay, won't allow me to do it for that because you're not going to have any inventory control. Okay, let's find a part that we know will be inventory controlled then. So that's not already set up. Here we go. I'm going to go for this one. So you tell it the template that you want, and you also tell it that you want it to open lot numbers automatically for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you tick the tick box, and you'll see that when I put the lot in, it automatically tick that for me anyway. And what's this one? Indicate how lot number is assigned to this part when it's received from vendors. Leave it blank to have the value of that taken. I want to check that one out of interest. Ignore what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just checking background setting to see how it works. Based on template when no lot numbers designated. If you tell the system create new lot numbers based on the template. Okay, we'll go for that. I'm just making a note of this to make sure I check the value of this in live, ready for when we go live as well. So I'm just checking that value now. And there you go. That's all you need to do. You just need to come into this one form, find the part that you're interested in, and allocate a template to it.
I know what I was doing wrong now. I was setting a part up in the part catalog and then ordering it rather than going to the parts and then setting it.
Well, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what order you set it up in. It needs to be in. By setting it up in the part catalog, it will automatically create a record for you in the part form as well. Yeah. That's not the issue. The thing is that you need to associate that. You need to come into this form. Yeah. I mean, there isn't. You can get to this form through the menu another way. I just find that this is the easiest way to find it, because I can never remember how to get there through the menu. So you get to this form however you want. If you like, you can search for the path to get to the form through the menu instead, and it will tell you. So what's this? Assign work order. That's the one I want. The path to get there is through inventory parts, part maintenance. So you can just go straight there using the menu system instead if you prefer. Inventory parts, part maintenance. There you go. That's another way to the form. It's there. The important thing is that you get into this form. When you're in this form, you take the part number and you tell it which template you want it to use. Once you've told it a template, it will start using it. But until then, it won't.
No.
You need to make that association. The other thing is that in the background, you've got this template form. And so you can actually have more than one template. Okay. You don't have to have one template. It's just simpler if you do, but you can have multiple templates. And then if you have multiple templates, you can choose which part uses which template for its number. So I think the way it's set up at the moment is that you have asked us to go through all your parts in live and assign them all to a template for you. So that will be done by default, ready up for day one. Okay. So in which case, so we're quoting for that at the moment. That's part of the quote that I'm going to send to John later today. We're quoting for that, and basically I've suggested that the template will look slightly different from this. It will probably be either PP or PL as the first two letters to show that it's yours. Mm-hmm. And then we'll have YY, which represents the year. So for the moment, anything booked in this year will have a prefix of 22. So you can tell by the lot number at different times, you can tell roughly the age. You can tell which year it was received in by the lot number. Okay. So you can see that it's your lot number because it's PP, and then it's YY for 22, and then you've got a sequential number after that. And at the end of the year, you go through a simple end of year process, and all the lot numbers will be updated, and 22 will become 23, and it will restart from 01 in 23. Mm-hmm. Does that answer all your questions, Steve, and more?
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
Could I do a stock take on lot? Could I do a stock take by lot numbers? Or will I have to?
No, it's the only way of doing it. So when you run the
Oh,
inventory
yes,
count, when you run the inventory counts, if I have a look at the ones that we created for today, the one that we created today in main had the same part. So this line and this line here, it's the same part, but one's lot 0 and one's lot 21. So it will give you a different line for each lot number. That's not negotiable.
Okay.
That's just the way it does it.
All right.
So you will have a stock take for each lot number.
Yeah.
And it will tell you, so you could have the 2 lot numbers in 2 different bins, and it would tell you which lot numbers in which bin as well.
And obviously sequential then, yeah.
Well, they're sequential in the sense of
they're sequential on the numbers of the parts or the lots. Yeah.
They're sequential in the sequence in which they arrive.
Yeah. Okay.
But not by part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that? Are we good?
Not from me.
Okay. It is now 10:54. At the moment, this session is scheduled to finish at 12:30, I think. Does anybody want a quick break at this point?
I'm hungry, guys. I'm starving.
Okay, I could do with a drink. You know, after 2 hours, the voice begins to need a little lubrication.
Yeah. Let's have a break.
So it's 10:55. Are we good to come back for 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll move on to the next scenario, number 6. Well, don't worry about the number of the scenario. There are a lot fewer scenarios for this session, so there's no time pressure in that sense. And we do have a second session anyway, in case we need to overrun. So there is no time pressure, but we'll keep rolling, and I'll see you back in 5. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Just message her first and see what she says. Hi, good morning, Joe. It's Martin from Business Service. You all right? I'm just wondering regarding this job for the job I'm coming up, Freeber's peanut butter. Do you by any chance know what kind of fault there is on it? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Keep it anyway, right? Yeah, the reason I phoned you, I did try phone her and said that she didn't answer, you know, so I emailed Barbara and she said, thanks for getting back to me. She left at the top of Jerry in brackets the bottom. Yeah. So, yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, nice. By the way, well, going on a different subject, did anybody get back to you after I spoke to you? Because I spoke to you the other day, didn't I? You were on about some call up, yeah, I passed that on to the but did anybody get back to you regarding that? Yeah.
I'm so hungry. What are you eating?
Right, okay. All right. Right, I'll get on to that as well. All right. Lovely, thank you, Jerry. Well, you're the always a top. Thanks, mate. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Steve? Steve? Tell him to look up, Mike. Tell him to look at the screen.
Look at your screen, Steve. What's that?
Cashew nuts.
Oh, yeah.
We're just talking about them.
I could have done with a few more nuts in my break now, just now.
Do you know what I'm doing in my air fryer?
What?
You know, you can buy, you know, those croissants they sell in supermarkets in the bakery, so you can get them frozen.
Yeah.
And I do buy them, and they take like 25 minutes in the oven, 10 minutes in the air fryer.
Yeah. Do you know, I did naan bread on the weekend. You know, just the shop bought stuff in the air fryer. It is so good.
Oh no, the little bread rolls that you have to bake at home. So we buy them all the time. So they are like 3 minutes in the air fryer. Yeah. But,
so good. Oh. We'll have to get Steve to look at your PC because you got 2 microphones on the go somehow. That's why we're getting feedback on yours.
And I don't think he can hear us. Can he hear us? Because I've been talking to him and he's not doing anything.
Well, you'll have to, if you unmute it, you're on mute a sec.
Can you hear anything? Huh? What's that like?
That's better. Oh no, I'm getting the feedback.
Yes, because we're in the same room, aren't we?
No, but if when I've got mine on, can you?
Just because we're in, that's why we have to go down.
No.
Yes.
No.
If I'm speaking and Steve's speaking, you don't get the feedback that's under your mic when you are on mute. So I think there's 2 microphones. So let's make sure the microphone.
PC, is it?
Yeah.
I think so. We'll have to get him to have a look.
Do we have Barbara back as well?
Yes, yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Right,
We were
okay.
just talking about air fryers. Do you have one?
No, I don't.
It's like a call, so you need to get one.
I know they're very popular at the moment, and there's a perception that they certainly reduce the cost of cooking. So, and a great debate about health benefits potentially as well.
I don't know about health, but it reduces the time of the cooking, but like half at least.
And therefore the cost as well.
Yeah.
I understand it. So,
yeah.
Great. I will share my screen again,
Okay.
and we'll kick off with the next exercise. So the next scenario, and I'm going to need a bit of help here because it's a bit on the vague side. The scenario was, how long does part history stay on priority? And the answer is, it depends what you mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that question on 2 different levels, okay, and answer it 2 different ways and see if that answers what people wanted or if there's anything I've missed. So on the 1 level, how long does part history stay on priority? And the answer is, once it's there, it's there. So if I go to inventory, you'll see there's something called audit trail. And basically, if you want to look back over a part's history, you just look in the audit trail and see all the transactions it's been through. Okay. So I quite like the audit trail. It's very flexible, so you can search for something by supplier name. You can search by warehouse, so you can see all the transactions through a warehouse if you want. You can search for a specific part number. You can search for a specific lot number. Which is where we're getting into really, really helpful territory now. Yes. So if you need to trace a particular lot number, you just put it in there and search by the lot number. So again, we're on single record view at the moment, but if I change to multi-record view, if I sort by lot number, we should find one. So if I take that one and then search by lot number, I can see that lot number. It's only had 1 transaction. We got 3 units in it. It was received in on the 12th of October this year, and it's from Microplex for that part. I hope you're getting the idea of why I think it's nice.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, as far as I'm concerned, I've never heard anything to the contrary. Any transaction that's ever happened with regard to inventory should be traceable through here. And you can see there's an awful lot of fields on here that you can use, and it's a query form, so you can search on any of the fields. It's up to you. I don't see the point in searching on quantity. It doesn't make any sense. But searching particularly on either part number, lot number, those are the real biggies for me. And then once you do that, you'll see a list of the transaction types that have happened for it, the transaction numbers. So once you run a transaction number, you can just you can find that, and you can just zoom through to the transaction and see the specific transaction that's in question as well. So it's not like you have to find that and then open a new form up to see the details. You just use this as a starting place to jump off and have a look at all the different processes it's been through. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's taking one level. How long does the part history stay? As far as I'm concerned, it's permanent.
Okay.
There is another level on which I could answer this question. So if I go to the I think my notes are somewhat incomplete on this. I think what I meant was to go here. So if I search for a part, and I think I'm going to play with the office chair. There is on the part catalogue, and I think this occurs in one or two other places too, as well. I couldn't remember where, but the principle still holds. There are a couple of forms around the system that have sublevels like these two.
Yeah.
Recent entries into inventory and recent inventory transactions. So this will show if we've had any additions to stock recently, and if so, where and when. And this one will show much more generic. That one's just into inventory. This is any movements within inventory. Okay, so you can see we've had some disposals, some transfers, some shipments, and a GRV as well. And with all of these, as elsewhere in the system, as I just demonstrated, if you put your cursor on the inventory number, transaction number, then you can always zoom off and have a look at the specific transaction that you're interested in as well.
Okay.
This one's slightly different because the important thing here is that you will notice that in both of these two sublevels, the key word here is recent. Therefore, the information that's shown in here is time limited. Okay. And I think if I do a right click on it, it says this form displays all receipts for this part into inventory which occurred within a given time period. This time period is determined by this constant in this form. So you can go to this form, and the constant that we're looking for is itrans days. You can go to this form here and then just go down until you find itrans days, which we could have searched for, but I don't. And you'll see that itrans days basically is currently for 30 days. Okay, so at the moment, these two forms here are just showing transactions that occurred in the last 30 days. I have also shown you that there is a constant that changes that value. So you can change the value in the constant, and it will therefore it will show you more or less, or rather fewer, more or fewer transactions according to how you set that constant. By default, it's set to 30 days. Those are the answers that I initially thought of for this particular scenario. I realise that there's one more, in fact, that I didn't give. So I'm just going to add that now. Serial numbers. There is a form, this form that we're on, catalogue of parts with serial numbers, which is found here. And this form, any serial numbers that are on the system will appear in here. So here's, so you can see the part number, you can see the serial number, okay?
Okay.
And you'll see at the moment, this serial number has been recorded as being shipped to that customer. So it's associated with that customer. If I look down here, you've now got an audit trail for this item, and you'll see that this particular shipment number, we don't know when or how this serial number was created on the system, but we do know that it was recorded in a shipment. So here's the shipment here. I'm assuming it's going to go to John Peckham at BMW. So if I zoom through to there, you'll see it's gone to BMW anyway. So, okay.
Yes.
so you've got the audit trail for the item. You've also got, is this serial number included in a contract? In this case, this one is. There's your contract. Again, you can zoom through to the contract. Is it has it recorded any service calls for it? You can see the service call history here. Are you getting the idea? So there is another type of history that you might want, and that's at serial number level. That serial number history is then found in here. But you can see from the audit trail, this is the same audit trail, but it's for a specific serial number. So, so it should still be a full audit trail of all inventory transactions affecting that serial number. So when you do a GRV, and you're doing a GRV for a part that carries serial numbers, then when you're receiving goods in, you should be listing the serial numbers for that part on the GRV. So if you're receiving 10 parts in,
Yes.
10 units for the one part, then you would record your part number up here. You would come down here, and you would list all 10 serial numbers for this part.
Okay.
So if you so you don't need one separate line for each serial number.
Okay.
You need one line for the part that you've been. So I'm assuming this is going to be a printer particularly. So you'd create one line for the printer and record the quantity that you're going to receive, and then down here you'd list all the serial numbers that you have received for that part number. If you are receiving, let's say you're getting a shipment from somebody who supplies you your Zebra printers. If you're receiving 2 different Zebra printers, 2 different models, they will therefore be 2 different part numbers. So you'd have line 1 would have model number 1 with 5 units, and you record the serial numbers down here. Line 2 would be part number 2, again another quantity, and then you'd record the serial numbers for the second model down here. Is that clear enough for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, Steve,
Okay.
this is good because we can set up Microplex print heads as serialized parts, and then we can just keep the record because they do give serial numbers on their invoices to us.
And obviously
So-
the printers and everything,
Yeah.
yeah. We can use that a lot, to be fair to them. Okie doke. We'll have a play with that later on then, after the session.
Yeah, so I'm kind of introducing several concepts in there. It is important whenever a serial number is involved in an inventory transaction, it is important therefore that you include the serial number. So you tell it what part you're doing, and then there will be a sub-level that enables you to say, for that part, I'm using this serial number. Okay, and the system basically does a count. It says, well, you told me you've got 5 here, and it counts the number of serial numbers you record and compares the number of serial numbers you recorded with the quantity that you said you received, and lets you know if there's a mismatch as well. Okay. Likewise, the same is exactly the same is true on a shipment. I know we're not covering shipments today. That was theoretically under sales, but here's your shipment. There's a printer. This one's finalized, so I can't do it, but you can see we've got a serial number recorded there against that with a quantity of 1. So the quantity of 1 matches the serial number. But again, if you were shipping 2 units of the same printer to the same customer in the same shipment, you would have a quantity of 2 here, and you would have 2 serial numbers recorded instead. Okay?
Yeah.
So if I take that serial number from this shipment and go back to the catalogue of parts with serial numbers, if I then search for that serial number in the catalogue, it's there, and you can see that I have a history of it. I've recorded the fact that that was shipped out on this specific shipment. You want to be able to see the inventory transaction history for a specific serial number. You can only see that if you record the serial number in those transactions. You only get out what you put in. Yeah.
Okie dokie.
So the question was, how long does part history stay on priority? I've said, taking the question literally, it stays there. As long as you've got the system, everything you've entered will stay. You can see that using the audit trail. You then have a slightly separate question when it comes to the part catalogue. You've got these recent entries sub-level, and that's defined elsewhere. And then finally, you've also got the catalogue of parts with serial numbers. And again, you can see different types of history. You can see an overall history, or you can see the service contract and the service call. That's the service call history. I'm not sure. I mean, normally a serial number would only be in one contract, I suspect. So I don't know whether that shows a full history of service contracts or no, it just shows the contract it's in now, I think. Okay, but otherwise you get the idea. Hopefully that's what you're looking for. So that was scenario 6. I'm not entirely sure how we can do an exercise on that particularly, unless you've got ideas of something you want to play with right now. Otherwise, you can come back to that when in your own time. Scenario 7 then. Scenario 7, do we have the option of a tick box saying deliver on behalf of the customer when producing a delivery note for a customer? I asked John exactly what this question meant, because I could interpret it at least 2 different ways and I wasn't sure what was intended. So I asked. And I was right. You can interpret it 2 ways and both are intended. Okay, so I'm going to split this question into 2. In essence, this is about reselling.
Yes,
Yeah.
and plain label shipping.
Yeah.
So, and there are 2 forms of reselling. One is where you take an order, place that order with somebody else, give them a purchase order and say, I want you to ship it and drop ship it to somebody on my behalf. The second option is where somebody else takes an order, places it with you and asks you to ship it on their behalf. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take the first one where you want the vendor to drop ship to the customer. Okay, so you're going to raise a purchase order. There we go, there's a purchase order. You're going to raise a purchase order. And what I'm saying is there is no simple tick box. What I want a draft one. Here we go. There is no simple tick box in here to tell them that what you want them to do. So there are 2 things that you need to do in my book. So first of all, you're raising a purchase order. Here's your purchase order. You place this purchase order. Okay, we haven't got a part on it, so let's put a part on. Anybody got a part they want to choose from? No. Okay, we've got a feed roll kit. I want a feed roll kit I want 1 of them. Okay. And I want Xerox to drop ship it direct to the customer for me. So I go to, okay, it needs a due date. I want it tomorrow. We've got a price. So first of all, we need to tell it where it's going to. So the name of the customer to whom it's going to be delivered is Deirdre Evans, and if she's got an email or a phone number, contact details, you can supply those as well. Otherwise, the main thing that you need to supply is an address. And a postcode. There you go. That'll do us. It's not much of a postcode, but it exists. Well, I'm trusting it's not even a real one. But you need to give them a shipping address. You've given them a shipping address. The other thing you want to do is tell them that you want to ship it. You want them to ship it, but you don't want their information on that shipment. So there is the space to record remarks on it. So you can put remarks on here. Please drop ship to customer with now, are you going to ask them to ship it using their own documentation but without their details on it?
Yes, yeah, plain label. Yeah.
Please ship to customer using plain label document. Okay. There's your purchase order. You've told them what you want to ship, you've told them where you want it to ship, and you've told them how you want it to be shipped. So the only other thing that's left now is basically to send them a purchase order. So we'll print the purchase order here. I'll show it on screen. There's your purchase order. It's 2 Xerox. You want them to ship to that address. There's the due date. There's the part number and the description. There's the quantity. There's the price. And here's the instructions: drop ship to customer using plain label.
Okay.
Yeah. There's, I'm kind of assuming that's covering everything.
Yes, it does
Yep.
for me. Yeah.
So is there a tick box? The answer is no. Is there a method of doing this that's not overly arduous? I mean, clearly you've got to create a purchase order to Xerox to tell them what you want. You have to tell them what the ship to address is for the drop ship. And I'm assuming that this is more or less a one-off delivery, so that you're going to have to type that anyway. So the only thing that you haven't got is a tick box that says put that text in for me. Otherwise, everything's done. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine, because we usually put that in the body of the email anyway. Or
Yep. Okay. Yeah, you can repeat it, but it's always good to have it on there as
Yes,
well, I would argue. Just to draw your attention to something else in priority that may or may not have come up. So you're aware, even if you weren't before, I think you're already aware anyway, that you can record remarks against a specific transaction. There's almost always a remarks form somewhere. Okay. What you might or might not be aware of is the fact you can also record remarks against each line on a specific transaction. So if I'm on the line here, I'm looking for a sublevel called remarks, and here it is. So if I'm on the line, I can put separate remarks for this one line. Okay, and if I do that and then print it, you'll see how that appears. Okay, let's go back. Let's change the print format. I want the extra description, I think. Yeah. So if you choose a print a different print format, then that print format will include this extra instruction as well. The difference between the two is that if you want the extra detail at line level, then it will be this extended part description here. But otherwise, it will be the standard format.
Okay.
Now, yeah. Okay, let me make a note of that. Okay, so that's you placing an order with somebody else, asking them to ship on your behalf. Okay, the other scenario is where a supplier, somebody else, sorry, has taken an order and they're asking you to fulfill it by dropship on their behalf, and they're asking you to supply that with no branded paperwork. So in this case, you will take, it's up to you. If you're going to be really, really nice about it, you'll take a sales order from them. You'll raise a sales order. They will be your customer, and then you'll be shipping to, you'll record the shipping address for it as well. Once you've got all that information in there, you can then, using this action here, you can create a shipment from it and ship it to them. I'm just going to cut corners for the moment and create a shipment direct, or see if I've got a shipment that I can use. In fact, have I got a shipment I can play with? There's a draft one. We'll use this. So we're shipping one office chair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recording a ship. Okay, we've already got let's do this separately. let's be good. Let's go from scratch. Has this got a shipping address? No, it doesn't. So we'll take this one. This is what we're going to ship. We're going to ship 5 drum microplex toner cartridges. So that's what we're shipping. We need to then ship to wherever we've been told to. So and we'll give him an address. So we've given a ship to address for that, and the other thing is they've requested with this that we ship it without any of our branding on it, so it's brand free. Okay, so you come to the print shipping document and there is a format here, drop ship with.
Excellent.
So you pick that format and you apply that, and there is your dropship document. So it's from, in this case, it's from whoever that was. I can't remember who the PO's from now, QVC. So it's coming from QVC there with their address details. It's being shipped to Cecil Beaton in Long Furlong Lane, Gloucester, and it's listing all the details on there. And I would just cancel, stop. This is the wrong one. Sorry, I've just got rid of it. So let's print that again. And following on from yesterday's conversation, you'll see that there are no prices on there.
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll also see that there's some text that's already been set up for it, so that's already on there, etc. But so here is your basic document without your format, without any of your information on there already. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So all okay?
Yeah.
Do you want practice on either one of those now?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, I have so on the training document that I produced for this session, this is the training document here. We're on scenario 7. This is the second scenario here. I said where a vendor's taken an order, asked you to fulfill it by dropship with no branded paperwork, you should use this print format. It's recorded there and listed. Okay, so there's no ambiguity. I think that's clear enough and good enough as notes to hand over to you later.
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
Great, good. Glad you're happy. We can move on. Scenario number 8. I have the ability to produce a workshop estimate for the customers who send their machines in. Sorry, I need to have the ability. So how do I do it? So I'm suggesting, I'm going slightly off piste here. I'm suggesting basically you're going to raise a service call for the work. Okay, you raise a service call for the stuff that's arrived. So you say who it's on behalf of. You record the. I'm wondering what statuses we've got. We've got anything I can play with? Here we got one. Forget the fact that it's allocated. Okay. We've got a customer and we've got okay, we would add a part number as well. If it's got a serial number, we'd record that too. Likewise, if it's got a contract, we'd record it. So we'd fill out the service call as we normally would and set it up. So we've recorded the information about what they've sent in. At that point, you can come down here and start recording the details of what you think is wrong with it. You can also record the any parts that you think will be required, and the quantity, and the price that you're going to be charging the customer for it. Okay. Likewise, you can also record details about the labour that you think will be required. So there is a work part number, technician work hour, and you can record how many planned hours. You can say that it's going to be 5, okay? For example, and again, you've got a price there that you're going to charge. Yep. Then you come up here. Okay, we'll give it a date for now. You can come up here and you can send. You've got 2 choices at this point. There is the option to print a service quote here. So you can do this. There is a quote already built in. However, there is a however, so hold on. That's your quote. So you can see what it is. You've got a part that you're going to quote for, and that's the cost of the part. And you've got another part, which is the labour time, and you're going to quote for that. That's your total. So there's your quote. There is a quote already available. However, to repeat that dread word, however, what you normally want with a quote is you want to be able to send a quote to a customer so that they can then use Click to Sign to sign it and approve it. The quote from a service call does not work within Click to Sign. So if your desire is to send this print version to them so they can sign for it, that won't work. You can send it to them, they just can't sign for it using Click to Sign. If you want to use Click to Sign, you will have to come back to the price quotation. If I remember rightly, you can you create a quote from here or not? I can't remember. I don't think you can. Okay. If you go to the price quotation form, you can create a quote. Because you've already created a service call, can you reference a service call on a quote? Looks like you can't. Okay. In which case, you're just going to have to create one manually. If you wanted, you could print the quote out here so you can see what the quote is. You've already put the details in, you know what they are. You can print it out, you can show that, and then you can use that alongside the quote so you can fill this in for yourself. On that basis, you can then send out the quotes using Click to Sign in the way that will be shown, hopefully on Friday morning. And then you'll be able to use Click to Sign. You'll send a quote to them, they will sign for it using Click to Sign, and when they've signed, it will attach a copy of the signed quote here. It will send an email notification to you because you are the person that this quote is assigned to. It will send an email to you telling you that this quote's now been accepted. It will send a copy of the signed version of the quote to the customer as well. Okay. So those are the 2 choices, and you'll understand now why I said you can print it, but there is a however. Do you want to go through that process, or are you content with it as it is? I'm assuming that you mainly want to use Click to Sign, and therefore the main thing that you'll end up doing really is creating a quote here. So if you want to do an exercise, this is probably the place to do it rather than the service call.
Yeah, no, for me, mainly customers I could use purchase orders, so I wouldn't need the signature from them. So so it's good that I can quote from the actual service call.
Okay. Good. So what you're saying is that sometimes you'll use one and sometimes you'll use the other.
Yes, yeah, it depends on who we do.
No, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that at all.
No,
It's one of the reasons I'm showing you both options.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So it's good to know that you'll use both options as well. So you've, yeah, there's a service quote there. Yesterday, John gave us some feedback on the documents and how they look. One of the pieces of feedback was the fact that the VAT number is duplicated on everything. We will tidy that up. As part of that, he also supplied your EORI number. So you'll see that that's now appearing. It wasn't yesterday.
Okay.
It is today because we've added now we've got it, we've added your EORI number in. So that, as you can see, will appear on everything too. Okay. So that was scenario 8. On to scenario 9. Scenario 9. Were there any more questions on that before I move on? Sorry.
No, well, for me, I'm happy.
Because I'm not trying to steamroller anybody, but on the other hand, I am trying to keep it moving as well. So, okay, next scenario. I want to have a visible process of seeing parts used by a monthly record. Is it possible? So, we're basically, and the point is, so we are able to see if this is a fast-moving item. Okay. So there's a standard report, so I'm going to take you to inventory transactions, inventory transaction reports, detailed transactions, monthly part shipments. Here we go. So you've got monthly part shipments here. So I'm going to take this one. As you can see, there's a whole stack of other options available on that menu as well that you can look at. I've chosen this one. So here's your monthly part shipments. I'm going to display it. You could equally download it to Excel if you prefer. Okay, you can also output to a PDF if you prefer. I'm just going to display this one. So the question, it then says straight away, what time period do you want to look in? So I've said, just show me anything that's any transactions that have been, any shipments that have been made between the 1st of September and the 11th of October. And there was also a tick box there. Let me go back. There's also a tick box saying, do you only want to include inventory controlled parts? So there are non-inventory controlled parts. Do you want to exclude them? So I'll exclude them, okay, because this is all about inventory controlled parts. So it makes more sense to exclude them. You also have the ability to specify part numbers that you want to use this for. I'm going to leave it for everything because this is a generic. This is about, you know, help me to see if we've got fast moving items. So I want to look through all part numbers to see if I can identify them. So here I am. And here you go. It's listing them. So it tells you at the top, a lot of the reports in priority, when it asks you questions about what parameters you want to use for this run of the report, it shows you those parameters that you selected at the top. You can see that we've got here, and what it's done is it's actually broken it down by month as well. So at the top, we've got all the data for September, and then down here, we've got the data for October. So it's given a breakdown on a month by month because it is a monthly part shipment. So in the month of September, for the office chair, we shipped 2, and in October, we've shipped 1. So if you export to Excel, you can obviously sort the columns. If you don't export to Excel, you just export to screen, as I have done here. You will also see there's some icons at the top. So one of the icons is to send to Excel. So if I click on that, what you will see now is I've got Excel opened and it's exported that data to Excel, so I can play with it in Excel, mess around. So you don't have to go to screen and then think, oh, I wanted this in Excel and rerun it. You can just, from the report, you can just export the data in the report to Excel.
So is this where people need to be set up to export to Excel? Because I have only 2 buttons there, and one is only print and one is like 2 arrows.
Okay.
Is that possible? Do you have like an Outlook on there, an email button as well? I literally have just that left icon and just that print icon.
That left, the left icon, that one. What's that one for? Oh, okay.
I think it just changes the view or something.
That I will check for you. That might be a function of how your browser is configured, but I don't know. I don't think. So if we go back to the option on the menu, go back to monthly part shipments.
Yes.
If you take that again, the first question it asks you is, do you want to download as a spreadsheet? Do you have that available?
Let me go again. Do you know what? I don't remember how I did that. Let me go again. Okay, inventory, this.
Sorry, let me show you the path.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I have exactly the same what you have now.
Okay, and it's not grayed out. You can select it. There's no problem.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, you've got to work around. It's not disastrous. My sneaking suspicion is it's something to do with your browser configuration, and it's to do with your browser. It's not to do with priority. It's to do with the way you got Chrome set up, I think. But I will check for you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just making notes as we go along for things that I need to kind of follow up on later. So, speaking of which, yesterday we were one of the things Monday, one of the things we looked at was the blanket sales order. Using this for the book of vouchers, and I tried demoing that using the generic part 000.
Yeah.
It didn't work. I'm pretty sure that is because 000 is not inventory controlled.
Okay.
So I think if I'd chosen a part that is inventory controlled, I've done it before. It does work, and I think the difference is that it's not inventory controlled. So if you want to create a book of vouchers, you need to create a part, and it needs to be an inventory controlled part.
Okay.
I have updated my notes from Monday afternoon to say that it must be an inventory controlled part that you use. Okay. Just as feedback and update on Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you all content with that? So to take us back a step, the scenario was I want a visible process for seeing usage of a part in a month, and if so, to be able to see if it's a fast-moving item. I think that answers that question. It shows you it can be done. It shows you it's available. It shows you that you can export it to Excel and manipulate it as well. Does anybody want to practice that? Are we happy?
I'm happy.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I thought so. It's okay. I'm kind of assuming that if in essence the question asks, is there a report to do this, and I show you the report running and you can see what's in the report, I assume most of the time you're not going to want to see if you can press the same button. You're going to be happy.
Yeah.
Scenario number 10. Now we go back a whole step. Create a new vendor.
Yes.
Okay. So purchasing vendor. Sorry, I did that very quickly. I did it too quickly. Purchasing vendor. And again, you'll see, just as we did in sales, I said that there's a sequence to the, generally speaking, there's a sequence to the list of items within the menu, and you'll see that there's a sequence here as well. Before you do anything on the purchasing side, you must have a vendor, so it's the top option. So you click on the vendor form and you need to create a vendor. So we're going to do that. Let's have a look at one that's already been created. I think you've created some of your own, so we'll have a look here. I think you've already imported some. So here you've got WorldPay as an example. You give them a name, and by default the system will automatically give them a number. As it is, you've imported your existing numbers already, so that's fine. The only comment I would make at the moment, which I have already made to John, is that you've imported your data into the demo company. We actually we have to have that data in the live company, so I'm expecting that to be imported by you into live in due course. But leaving that aside, so you will have your the vendors that you can see here have been imported by you. John just needs to repeat that process so that you've got vendors and customers and parts in live, which aren't there at the moment. So here's an example of one. It's assigned to John. It was opened on the 3rd. It's got a status of active. You've got address details for them. There's more information available, as we discussed, whether you want to change name, which you normally won't. Payments, you will need to record payment terms for all of your suppliers. So that's there. You can also record their VAT number. And as with customers, you can, there are financial parameters for vendors as well. So you can come here and have a look at all of those. We'll come back to this in a minute. This is a whirlwind tour. We'll go through it. I will create one and then you will. We also have the ability to record contacts for the vendors. And it works in exactly the same way as it did for suppliers, for customers. So you record a first name and surname, it'll automatically give them a name, and then you can record whether they're active or inactive. You can record all the contact details that you want for them, email, office, etc. And most importantly, what type of a contact are they? For this vendor, are they the main contact? Are they the person that you would contact if you're sending a purchase order? Are they the person you would contact to do with invoices that they send to you? Do you want to be able to invite them to participate in click to sign, in which case this is the tick box you need to use. Okay. Mm-hmm. So just as with customers, the type of listing the contacts is one half of the battle. It's not an awful lot of it unless you specify what type of a contact, what circumstance they should be used in. If you specify these, it will automatically fill their name in on the transaction type for you. So for the purchase order, for the vendor invoice in particular, and especially if you want to use them for click to sign. Okay, so we are going to create a new vendor. So okay, that'll do. So I tell you what, let's go back. I'm going to call it Tim Test 1, and by default, the system will automatically give it a number if you don't. Okay. So I can give it a number, or I can just give it a name and the system will give it a number. That's why I changed my mind in the end, was so that you could see that happening. But you can also see from the line above that you can do it the other way. So we've got a supplier name there. It's going to be assigned to me. It was opened today, and they are active. They do need an address, so we're back to this. No, that's going to be wrong, isn't it? You can create, who is this for? Details, any of this relevant? Don't think so. Shipments, no. Payments, so we're going to give them payment terms. We'll go for net 30 days, I'm assuming. Currency, I'm just going to leave as a default. Normally, in live, your default currency will be GBP, so don't worry about that. You can record their VAT number as well if you like. We can also go to financial parameters. Let me go back, put the cursor there, and then go to financial parameters, and it will open the form for this account. You've got a company registration number, their VAT number. You've still got the payment terms there. You can, if you ever have a standard discount with this particular supplier, then you can record that there. Quite a bit of this is more finance setup, as you'd expect from the name. So it depends whether you're looking at this from creation of a supplier just to set them up. If you have I would expect you probably have a separation between how finance set up a supplier and how the rest of the business does. In which case, if you're setting up a new supplier, you just need to tell finance that you set one up and they need to finish the process. Okay. You've also got the VAT code here as well, and the EU VAT number should it be relevant. For a supplier, if you make payments by bank transfer to them, then there's the bank account details down here. which has reminded me of something. So you can record their bank account details there to enable bank transfers to be made. Those are the main points really for a supplier. As with customers, you can record remarks against a supplier. You can also record remarks for internal use, as with customers. So if there's something going on in your current system, you have an idea of flash messages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This effectively is the flash messages for suppliers. There is an equivalent for customers as well. So if there's a flash message you want to pop up every time somebody creates a new quote, a new goods in, a new purchase order, a new vendor invoice, then this is where you would record it. And every time a new transaction is recorded for one of those types of things, then the flash message will appear when that document is created. Okay.
Okay.
So that would be more for if you have particular current issue with the supplier. For example, you know that they tend to be late at the moment. They've got a problem with delivering on time. Then you might want to record that so that every time somebody raises a PO, at least they know that they're to build in extra time on their estimate for the customer, for example. Or if you know that they've been struck by lightning and therefore they will be out of action for a month, you can record it. I don't know. If they're planted, if all their stuff is shipped from the Ukraine and therefore they're having supply problems at the moment, all of those things, or China with COVID, etc. You can record all those things in here, and then you'll get the flash message every time you try placing a PO with them. So, but the intention is it's a flash message. It's not meant to sit there permanently forever. It's a short-term thing. So you have to, if you do put these in, you should really remember to remove them when they're no longer relevant. Is that okay? Am I hitting most of the kind of items that you want to hit for creating a new vendor?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, exercise time. Off you go.
Oh.
Time for you to do it.
Oh.
You can rest my voice and let me take a quick swig while you're setting it.
Can I, after this, be a pain? And I know you probably went through it with the guys, but I wasn't in the
That's fine.
inventory workshop.
You're not being a pain.
About creating part numbers, you know, the actual parts.
Okay.
Yeah, if
Yep.
we could try that, because I would like to try it myself as well. So I do.
Let me make a note.
Yeah.
I will have a look and see if I've got this in here already. Okay.
So I don't think it's in any of the scenarios.
No, it's not. Okay. Let me go off and get my notes.
Because I know Mike wasn't in the workshops either, so I think it might be.
Yeah. No, please. I'm not here to say, oh, I'm not doing that because you didn't list it in advance. There's none of that going on. Trust me. And I'm fully aware that there were workshops you missed. So you're not meant to be disadvantaged. I don't think. My recollection is I don't remember giving you any documentation as a result of the workshops. So the intention is that we will provide documentation from the training sessions. So if you ask for it, you get it. So I've had a look at I did look at the workshops, the inventory stroke purchasing workshop, and noticed there were a few details in there that you might want to be included in the training document. So I've created copied a few scenarios from the workshop that you didn't put in. So you will have more documentation than you might expect. Again, once you've all finished creating your supplier, let me know and we'll move on to the next step.
Okay, yeah, I'm done.
And the other two guys, you both good? Bearing in mind I can't see you, so I need to hear you.
Oh, I can see them. Steve
Leave
is
me
helping
there.
Mike with something, so I think they're doing something together.
Okay, fine, thank you. If you let me know when
Yeah.
they're done, then
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's in the actions.
No, sure.
you're all going to become experts on your own different areas as well. So it's good to see you asking questions of each other and supporting each other now, because that's what you're going to be doing going forwards.
Yes.
I'm sure you do it now anyway. So
Yeah. I think we more like, especially us that we've been here years, everyone can do everything, so we can just cover for each other.
yeah, and you need to cover for each other on things like holiday and sickness, etc. So yeah, I'm sure you're used to doing it already. Okay, are we ready to move on or not?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah, can you show me how to get the flash up?
You want to see how to get a flash up?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let me share my screen. It's this one. Okay, so I'm on my test. So I've recorded.
That makes sense.
There's my flash message. Okay, I'm going to create a PO.
It must be, because that's only using
So
the
this is the
Can you make yours?
this is the supplier. I'm going to create a purchase order now. So I'm going to put the supplier in, and there you go. Was that clear? Do you want me to do it again? Was
Yeah,
it too
'cause-
fast?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's
It's
good.
just that you had a different screen to me at the start, so I was like, oh.
Okay. Vendors. So I'm back on vendors.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you'll see that you've got this vendor remarks for internal use.
No, I haven't got that.
I think, Mike, when
Oh.
you have that 1, 2, 3, so when you click, like 2, it might just move your.
Yeah, if you search amongst them, you should find vendor remarks for internal
Oh,
use.
yeah.
Yeah. If I can show you something, you may or may not like this. I do. If you put your cursor back on the top level for the moment, if you then press F5, it will show you a list of all the sub-level forms in sequence, and you can just scroll through them. And you can scroll through them, in my view, a lot faster than you can by going through these different tabs. So there's more than one way of skinning the cat. There's always more than one way. I'm trying not to show you too many shortcut keys using the keyboard, but it is there. The important thing is that you find the vendor remarks for internal use. That's what you're looking for. That's what it's called. Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, I got that.
Okay. So then you put your text in there.
Yep.
Record your text. When you've recorded your text, leave the sub-level to save it.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Once you've done that, copy your supplier number and then go to the purchase order form. And in my case, what I did was I pasted my supplier number with my internal flash message. And when I move the cursor from this field to any other field, my flash message turns up. Yeah?
Yeah.
And you should
Does
see
that
the same
stay?
thing.
Sorry.
Go on.
Does that stay there until you click OK?
Yes.
The flash message. The flash
Yeah.
message. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just saw me. I clicked on the flash. I clicked on the OK to make it go away.
Yep.
It went away, and now I can continue with my purchase order. But I've
Yep.
now received the warning that you as a business
Yep.
wanted me to receive before I did anything with this.
No, that's good, because at the minute I was just disappears after like 3 seconds.
No. This is there until you make it go away.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
better. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions before we move on? Are we happy now?
Nope. All good.
And please, I know this is the standard training phrase, but there is no such thing as a stupid question. The only thing there is a question that's basically showing you I have not communicated well enough yet for you to understand. So feel free to keep asking questions. It may be that I haven't communicated well enough just because I haven't tried covering that particular subject. So in this case, it was one that I had skirted over, but not actually physically demoed. So it's good that you asked. Okay. So I have noted, we're on to scenario 11. Okay. Here's my document. We're on scenario 11. In response to what you've just asked, Barbara, I have added scenario 20 at the bottom, which is create a new part. Okay, so I have heard you. We can do things in any sequence we like. I'm flexible. My expectation is we'll just carry on banging through the items that I've got listed in the sequence they're listed, but I can change them.
Why not? Yeah.
Okay. Scenario 11 then. We need to change the price for a part that's been ordered with a supplier. So I think my understanding of this is one of the scenarios that we've held over from the sales on Monday afternoon.
Yes.
So from this session on the sales on Monday afternoon, my understanding of this is that basically you've already created a PO with a supplier, you've sent it to the supplier, and you've realised that you've got some of the details wrong and you need to update it and change it.
Yes,
yeah?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, grand. So let's go to the purchase order. There we go. Except I didn't really want a print purchase order, did I? Oh, I got that. That's interesting. Let's lose it. Purchase orders, where are you? I've closed them all. Okay, we'll open a new one. So we've got a purchase order. I think what I want to do is see if I can find one that's in a sent status, because this will mimic exactly where we're at. Okay. So here's one from sometime earlier this year, in fact earlier this month. Somebody's created one, they've got it to the status of sent. I'm wondering if anyone has invoiced this yet. I don't want to play with one that somebody's already invoiced because it won't let us do anything, so let me just check. This is a purchase order. We're good. Okay. I think we're clean. So you have sent this purchase order to this supplier for this item, two units of this. Okay. Yeah. You've realised that you made a mistake, and I can see what the mistake is straight away because you've told them that you want it for free. Okay. So clearly there's a mistake. What would you do now? Is my first question for you.
At the moment, if there is a purchase order for a certain price and they come back to me and say, oh, it's actually this much.
Okay.
There is a way how to change it and print it again, but not many people. I think